Currently, I'm working on a Werewolf the Forsaken game for a couple of my players, and this is the map that I'm using so far. This has all the pure werewolf packs. You've got the Predator Kings here in the middle, you've got the Ivory Claws, and you've got the Fire Touched. Now these are the antagonists of Werewolf the Forsaken if you haven't guessed, and my player's territory is right there. Right? That one little building. And this is how I make a map for my games. I'd like to thank our patrons Echo B and The Bohemian for supporting the channel. This is a campaign diary of some of the things I do to prepare a campaign for my players. You may be asking the screen right now, Corbin, why did you give your players such a small amount of territory? Well, that's because the players are going to have to expand out themselves and sort of get their own territory and maintain it. That's my concept for this game. This is a Werewolf the Forsaken game taking place in Dedham, Mass. My pitch to my players was that Dedham was a no-wolves land, basically a territory that was no longer claimed by werewolves and had become spiritually corrupted by the spirits and claimed in the area. There's more to it than that. There's also werewolves, demons, etc., but my players are just going to be focused at the small scale and build out. So unlike for Dungeons & Dragons, in Chronicles of Darkness, I'm going to be taking a real-life location and turning it into my campaign setting. So my Google Maps allows you to create these layers that will house different objects in them. The objects that I have right now are the Pure Werewolf packs, which are these three giant things here. This is where their territory is, and the player pack, which is going to be right here in the middle, where you can barely see it because I'm scrolled out so far. This is Editor Corbin just showing you quickly how to drop markers onto the screen. First, you're going to click this icon right up here, and then click onto the screen wherever you want. It will drop a marker there. You can name it whatever you want. Crazy Cult, anything like that. And you can just save it there. You can even add a picture to it if you wish, and if you don't like it, you can delete it, and if you want to change the style, you can change the style here. I'm just going to keep them red because red's cool. Okay, if you want to make draw a line or like select a selection or like highlight an area, you can use the draw a line feature here. It's add a line or shape, and then if you click here, you'll start drawing lines, and you can connect them together to form a square or a box or a pentagon or whatever type of shape you want. You can save it similarly like that. Additionally, you could just do a line here, and then if you just click it again, it'll just do a line instead of doing the full square or shape. I haven't tried any of these biking routes, driving routes, or anything like that, but that seems more like something that you would actually use this for and not for a game. Now back to the original footage. Because this is a more local game and it's going to be a little bit more focused in this one town, I'm going to scroll down all the way down here, and I'm going to start making some pinpoints. So you can select this add marker tool here, and it allows you to go and you can touch certain points of the map. So for instance, there's a cemetery over here, which means there's probably an Avarian gate to the underworld. So I'm just going to say underworld gate here, and then hit save. And there, I have an underworld gate. It's now in my player pack layer, which I don't want. So I'm going to click add layer here, and then I'm going to select the title here to change it to gateways. And this will now house all the gateways that I create for my players here, and I can take this and I can drag it into the gateways layer, and so now it's all under here. You are limited to how many layers you can have, but you're not limited by how many markers you can have, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to take what we learned and I'm going to mark up this map with a bunch of different points of interest for my players. So already you can see that the world is getting fleshed out a lot more. This isn't the final form of this map, this is merely just the beginning. But I've added a few things already, and I've definitely marked up the map a lot. I've gone down through here and I've marked every storefront essentially and given them all little different names that are a little bit like what they are in real life, but I wanted to be a little bit more grungier down here, which is why I've changed the Horse Thieves Tavern here to just the pub, and another place that's right around the corner is called the Bagel Hole. I just wanted to give this sense that this is less well off than it is initially. And the idea isn't that the players are going to gentrify the neighborhood. That was something that's something I still want to be very clear that I don't want to happen. What I want is to sort of have the players realize how spirits interact with the neighborhood, and maybe something that someone like the owner of the pub really wants to be a craft brewer, so they decide to become to build up the storefront and such. There's all these different ideas I have. I'm still trying to figure them all out. One of the main antagonists that I want to sort of show to them early on is going to be sort of this drug den, or crack den as I have it here. It's actually run by joy spirits that have mixed with addiction spirits, and so they're this joy addiction conglomeration that are essentially trying to give happy pills, quote unquote, to all the people in sort of this area to sort of create more resonance for happiness in order for them to be able to become sort of like the spirit that controls this town. As you can see, I've fleshed out the areas right around the player's den. That's because these are the locations that they're going to probably go to first. If there's anything else further out that they want to check out, I'll probably have to add that and improvise as I go. But right now, I'm focusing in this little tiny area. And all these storefronts, they're just names for the most part. There are a few that I've sort of fleshed out more that are like about 2 or 3 sentences or bullet points, just so that I know what to expect when the players go there. But there's nothing really big that I've planned. There's nothing that I'm going to be sad that my players went left instead of right for, because I planned for it so much and they decided they weren't interested in it. I haven't planned enough that I feel like I'm going to lose content because they decide to do something different. I've definitely taken liberties with this location. I've turned an insurance company into the Parks and Rec department. I've put down markers in different locations that probably shouldn't be there, but like there's a nightclub in the middle of Dedham, and if you know Dedham, it's a very suburban type area. It's close to Boston, but it's not really a city. So again, my players are starting at this little tiny dot in the middle of the screen. That's because I want my players to start off as underdogs and then work themselves up to these bigger threats that are around. I don't think they're going to be able to take on the pure tribes at all. Like, maybe they'll be able to cause some disarray in their ranks, but they're just there to sort of deal with this no wolves area that's in the sort of center of Dedham. And the way I would probably map it out, if I were to just like sort of add a little map here, is like probably around this area is the no wolves land that I mentioned prior. But honestly, the players aren't even probably going to get further than about this immediate area. But they could just decide that whatever's going on in these areas here is perfectly fine and reasonable, and they decide to move on to, say, the mall that's down here, or maybe they decide to go up to the West Roxbury area up here. The world is kind of their oyster. I'm giving them direction for where they want to go, but I'm not giving them so much that it's railroady. This is a very open style game. It's not like my Open City style game. It's more like an open world game where I'm going to give them plot hooks, and they're going to take those plot hooks and run with them if they want, or pick and choose which ones they find interesting. And if they do want to go left instead of right, I'm going to give them that opportunity. Now, you also might be wondering, but Corbin, if you're giving your players so much freedom, how are they not going to have analysis paralysis, where they're going through all the different choices and not knowing which one to go through? Well, I usually give my players a list of options. I've covered it in a previous video that I hope is doing a lot better now. But basically, the idea is that my players tell me what they want to do before the next session, and I let them know, okay, I'll prepare for that session, and we'll be prepared to run it next week. That way, I'm prepared, they know what to expect, and we're not sort of going into this event where no one knows what's going on. So far for this campaign, I only have 2 players, but it's going to probably get up to 3 or 4 depending on if schedules pan out. My main goal right now is just to sort of get them through the door, and hopefully they'll like what they see. If there are any problems with analysis paralysis, I'll toss in a plot hook that is time-based that they have to deal with immediately, or have someone come up to them and say, hey, something's going on here, please help me, just so that they're sort of pushed into a direction, because even though I don't want to do that, that's something I'm going to have to do if they're not giving me anything to work with. Please let me know what you do for when you prepare for a game. Please leave a message in the comments below and I'll try and get to it. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one.